and I was like jumping around the living room, like on the couch, like trying to be happy. And I was so sad, but I was like, I will have joy. I didn't actually know that I could be content in all circumstances, because all I had known was discontentment.
And we're all together and learning and jumping and yaying. It's like, of course you're not alone. But on the days where you feel you are the most, that's where you can learn you're not. And I dare you to reach out for him.
I was just thinking, I used to deal a lot with sadness and discontentment. Like, it felt like a plague, like no matter what was happening in my life.
For real.
Yeah.
For real.
Like everyone could think that I, had the perfect life or something, and I would be so sad. And I don't know, this was like years ago, but I just decided to come against it like a spirit, because it was not going away with a situation or a time. And yeah, I guess I just like learned to be really aggressive with things like that, because it was like in moments of revelation that I could see the Spirit of God and how truly blessed I am to just have his presence, like even if I had nothing else. Like I have the Word and I have the Spirit, and this is all I need and what everybody needs. And like I would see it in moments, and then the rest of my life would be lived with this like shadow. And yeah, so by his grace, learned to really be aggressive, like anytime I felt it. And it was like multiple times a day. I remember one time I was with Elise, this is in Autumnwood, and I was like jumping around the living room, like on the couch, like trying to be happy. And I was so sad, but I was like, I will have joy. Like I will have joy. And I was so determined to not let that rule me and like take over my life. And so I would like combat thoughts in different situations, like multiple times a day. And then it was daily and then weekly. And now it's like few and far between, and I can kind of catch it before it feels overwhelming. Like there was something that, like this little thought and like a tightness in my chest about something, and just like shared it with Cheyenne, because I was like, I know where this leads, and I'm not willing to come back here, because this like thought or tension always grows. And then I'm, months later down the line, like, ah. So.
Can anybody relate to that? Yes. Can anybody relate to that? Yes. Can anybody relate to that? Don't give that thing an inch, because it will take miles from you. It will take hours and days and weeks. I've seen people retreat into that thought life, and maybe they just need a reprieve for a little bit. Years later, they're still in that thing. I was reading in this book from Derek Prince, and he said he believes that two spirits open the door for other spirits: resentment and self-pity. And more than likely, that's what the sadness was. Probably the real name for it was self-pity. Say that.
100% it was.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
So many times we're free, we're in the clear, running through fields of freedom. What opens the door back to torment? Typically resentment, which is unforgiveness, hurt that we've not truly let go of. I'm going to tell you, hurt will not let go of you until you let go of hurt. Hurt will not let go of you until you let go of hurt. And really and truly, I think that resentment and self-pity probably feed off of hurt. So you could just think, I'm mad or I'm sad. And either way, it could be self-pity. And that will open the door to things that you were free of before. Can anybody see that in your life? So, see, these moods are invisible, but they're not harmless.
They can be sin. Like, I'm just thinking so much of my freedom came from seeing my own fault in it
Can you
all.
just say that a little? Say it again and say it a little more slowly. And understand, I'm not picking on Louisa. I'm not like, tell them how you really are, Louisa. I'm saying tell everybody how it really is. Because her battle, you can relate in some way, right? So I want to make that very clear.
Yeah, like the only freedom that I've found, like when it was super deep and it was super hard to get out of, and then even little things, it's come from, like, yes, being aggressive, but seeing my part in it and seeing that, like, I agreed, I'm following this thing because I believe it, because I am this, or I did fail, or, you know, it's like whatever it is, like, I am better, or I am worse, or.
Say that again. Say it again.
It's like, because it's all self, like it's, I don't know exactly what I said, but.
Listen what she said. She said, well, it's true, I am better. Or, well, it's true, I am worse. Do you see what that is? That is comparison.
Yeah.
That is the two sides of the same thing. Pride, comparison says you're better. Low self-esteem says I'm worse. Either way, this is about you in comparison to others.
Yeah. And both are sin, and both lead to bondage. So it's like, it's one thing to, you know, be aggressive in the spirit and come against these feelings. But if I'm not seeing my part in it, and like, okay, I think like what we learned here, I feel judged. So Lord, show me where I'm judging somebody. And then he shows me, and I repent, and then it's like instant peace and freedom. And it kind of like relates to anything. Like even when sadness was so heavy and discontentment, I'm trying to remember, because I know there was like a moment where I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't even realize I could be content in like every circumstance.
Can you say that again?
I didn't actually know that I could be content in all circumstances, because all I had known was discontentment in
Because
all
that thing wasn't
circumstances.
letting you be content in any circumstance.
No.
In fact, how long ago was it that I said my new mission for you? I don't even have to think about it much anymore.
Your new
Remember,
mission.
I don't know how long ago it was when I said my new mission with you is I refuse.
To believe that you're a victim. Yeah. Maybe 3 years ago? Was it like 3 years ago?
Maybe 3 years ago, because suddenly
2.
I realized the devil was beating you up.
Yeah. And I had seen, like, instead of, that was a big moment of freedom for me too, when she said, I refuse to believe that you're a victim, or like, because I think that I knew that I could see myself as a victim, and I found fault in that. And so then it would just like keep piling, instead of like how Henry Wright teaches to separate yourself from the sin. Like, I felt so enmeshed with it that it was my fault, my problem. I had to get out of it, and I didn't know how. Instead of like, this is a spirit that's trying to take my life, and I'm not like evil and wicked, so I can come against it and be free. Yeah.
Yes, because it could work either way. It could have a person as the problem or you as the problem.
Yeah.
And the enemy was able to hide in that person's your enemy or you're just evil. Right? Either way, the devil has a perfect hiding spot. It's that person's fault. It's this job's fault. It's these people's fault, or it's all your fault.
Yeah.
And either way, the enemy gets out scot-free with no word taken against him.
Yeah. And it was love. I'm like remembering now too, so much of that was actually believing that I'm loved, that has like not only set me free, but helped me stabilize in freedom. And obviously there's still so much more growth for this all, but like I could see that when things would kind of come, like I wouldn't just instantly go back into bondage. Like I was learning how to stay stabilized in freedom, because I was in my heart believing that I was actually loved. and before like knew it in my head, but there's such a difference. And you know it when you know it. It's like hard to describe because it's like all the verses that I had been meditating on and learning for years were finally starting to settle in. And then, like bad things or blessings would happen and I would still feel blessed and like appreciate the Lord in the hard times, be thankful for them because they're producing endurance in me. And then also loving him and enjoying the blessings that he's given.
How has that blessed your marriage?
A lot.
When I got delivered, I felt like I was in bliss with Jesus, but my house sometimes felt like a prison. Because no one else in the house was running on freedom yet. And then when Kevin got delivered, things really started blowing up. And I've told y'all this before, but we called Dr. Remedios, and he said, it's okay. This is what happens to a wound when it's starting to heal. And I want to encourage some of you. If things are starting to look pretty ugly, it's a sign of healing. You being healed does not mean that you and everything around you goes perfectly. Real healing will bring all kind of levels and layers up in your life as God says, yes, I know this is healed, but now I want to heal this. And now I want to heal this. Because everything in my life that has been healed has been surrendered first. Wow. How can you surrender something to God that is so hidden from you? So I really want to encourage anyone that it just feels bumpy lately. Maybe it's bumpy in your house. Maybe it's bumpy in a relationship. Maybe it's just bumpy in your heart. That does not mean that you're not living in Christ and Christ is not taking care of you. We have a lot of inside stuff that will still need to be surrendered to Christ, but how can you surrender to something to God that has not even been revealed to you? So as things come up, I don't want you to think, oh man, I'm still not healed. When things come up with me, as soon as I can remember this, I can say, more freedom. Not that I feel more free, but I know right over this next little hill, I'm going to have more freedom. Why? Because I will be more surrendered. All of those places are where I've learned to trust God more. I don't necessarily just feel more trust building in my heart when everything's just fine and I'm on the porch. I enjoy the Lord, but that's not where I learned to trust him. I did not learn to trust God on the beautiful porch days with coffee. I learned to trust God when I felt absolutely abandoned. When I felt abandoned is where I learned I wasn't. Where I felt alone is where I learned I wasn't. So we long for the beautiful, easy days. But I find those are places we enjoy him. The other ones are where we learn to trust him. In other words, if Shiloh had been born and nothing bad ever happened, I don't even know if I'd have had the encounter I had. I don't know. Because it was at the end of myself with Shiloh's journey that I said yes to encounter with the Lord. Do you see what I'm saying? My point is not try to have bad days. My point is don't be afraid. Because even in the valley of the shadow of death, We will not fear. Why? Because He's with us. So we all enjoy and love easy days. But it is in the hard days where I learned that I was not alone. I knew I wasn't alone on the easy days. When we're all together and learning and jumping and yaying, it's like, of course you're not alone. But on the days where you feel you are the most, that's where you can learn you're not. And I dare you to reach out for Him.